Now, more than 100 academics from around the world have signed a letter urging the United Arab Emirates to release the British student Matthew Hedges. The letter highlights concerns over his deteriorating mental health and claims that the conditions in which he is being kept violate internationally accepted practices. Well, the 31-year-old Durham University PhD student was detained at Dubai Airport in May, and his family say he's been kept in solitary confinement ever since. Well, you saw her picture there. Joining me now here in the studio is Matthew's wife, Daniela Tejada. Thank you so much for coming in, Daniela.
Thanks for having me.
Just explain why he was in UAE and how he came to be arrested.
So Matt went to the UAE after nearly 3 years of embarking in this whole academic research project for his PhD thesis. And he was going to the UAE for only 2 weeks to sort of get some sources to corroborate all of the information that he had gathered through theory. Then we were expecting him to come back after 2 weeks of doing, all the interviews and all the necessary gathering of information that he needed, and he just didn't come back.
So when was the first that you heard that he'd been detained?
It was actually on that day, nearly at that very time, because his mom, who was in the UAE at the time, went to drop him off in the airport, and that's where he got detained. And I got a call from her maybe 20 minutes, half an hour later, just obviously incredibly worried, saying he's been arrested, he's been detained. So it took everyone by surprise, really.
Was he aware that there were risks to going to a country like UAE and asking challenging questions?
People tend to think that going to the Middle East and doing research is a very risky affair, but I don't think anyone thought like that, that would happen in a country like the UAE, who prides itself in being such a Western, open-minded country. Definitely not Matt. He had lived in the UAE. He had visited on and off since 2008, and he had studied it so well that he really knew it like the back of his hand. His colleagues and friends just could not believe what was going on either, and they are all kind of specialists in that area. So I don't think anyone could have predicted that this would kind of take this unexpected turn of events.
What is the procedure? What is the process that you now have to go through?
It's been very unclear. For the past nearly 6 months, I've tried to make all sorts of inquiries as to what the process is and what to expect from it. However, only until last week or the past 10 days have we started getting some answers about what the process is and what's going to happen. He was pressed charges formally. We found out about this through the news, which was completely devastating, really. And now we're just trying to figure out what happens kind of on a day-to-day basis. He has a hearing coming up this Wednesday. I have been told that in this hearing, it's just going to be him and his court-appointed lawyer presenting the defense. But because everything's been so unpredictable, I couldn't put my hands on fire for it.
And what help have the British authorities been whilst he's been held?
They've been heavily involved. As a matter of fact, I got notified that the Foreign Secretary had made a couple of representations. But in terms of how effective those representations have been, not just the Foreign Secretaries, but all of the ones that came before, I think it's rather debatable. I was told that it was all about his welfare, and that's all the focus that the Foreign Office could place, although he is an innocent man being unjustly held. But even in that sense, he wasn't even granted that rightful treatment that he deserved. I mean, he was in solitary confinement for nearly 6 months, and it hasn't changed.
So they're accusing him of spying, is that right? Yes,
it's actually gathering information to share with a foreign agency, which is completely outrageous. I know his research from top to bottom, and I pretty much have read every single one of his emails, and I could not find any compromising information. So I think it's probably gotten out of their hands, and now they're trying to find something to charge him with.
Well, he was gathering information, but he's gathering it for his PhD for Durham University.
Yeah.
What help have they been?
They have been helpful. They have been supporting me all throughout. Particularly his supervisor, Professor Clive Jones, has been amazing. The university are slowly working on kind of releasing a formal statement to come in Matt's defense, but they have been fantastic. They issued a letter of good standing to the UAE courts saying, you know, Matt was actually engaging in legitimate research. Please set him free because he is not guilty of what he's been accused of. But yeah, they are collaborating, and they're also working with other universities to kind of get Matt home.
And what's your contact with Matthew been like, and how is he coping?
It's a bit of ups and downs. So some weeks he feels a bit calmer. Some others he's very distressed. Most of the times he's been under a lot of stress. He suffers from depression, anxiety, and naturally the conditions that he's been kept in have had a horrible toll on his state of being. But slowly but steadily, I'm hoping that the treatment towards him will improve, and most definitely that he'll be released to get the proper treatment that he deserves, which is from an expert here in the UK and his family and friends.
And you've only been married for a year and a half.
Yes.
Not been together very much.
No, we've unfortunately we've only been able to spend between 4 and 5 months together. We got married last year in January, but I had to leave the country soon after to process my visa papers. And then we were finally starting to get our lives together, and this happened. So it hasn't really been the ideal start to a marriage.